Hello, good afternoon. Uh, can you hear me? So, after a long 1 hour of physiology lecture, we'll be starting with the anatomy lecture now. And the lecture now is today gametogenesis, female reproductive cycle, fertilization, and implantation. I will not go up to implantation, I'll only do up to fertilization. So, what do we understand by gametogenesis? Gametogenesis is where the male gonad is the testis and the gamete is the sperm, and the process of forming the sperm is called spermatogenesis, which happens in the male reproductive system, and the female gonad is the ovary. The process is the oogenesis and the gamete is the ova. So for any process of fertilization to happen, there has to be a male gamete, there has to be a female gamete, and they have to unite to form a zygote. So we have to first understand the process of spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So before we go into that, I'm just showing you a picture out here, which is a picture showing you this. What you can see up here are the undifferentiated mesenchyme, which we call the mesoderm, the intermediate mesoderm, which gives rise to the urogenital system of the embryo. The urogenital system of the embryo comes from the intermediate mesoderm, and the surface epithelium out here sends down cords. So in both and the male and the female gonads, these cords are sent from the surface epithelium and they will be forming the follicular cells. But the gametes itself come from the primitive germ cell layer, which is in a very early stage. The female or male is already determined at the time of fertilization. So at the time of fertilization, the genetic sex of the baby is determined. If it is going to be a male baby, then it's going to form a testis. If it's going to form a female baby, it's going to form an ovary. So what happens? The gametogenesis, for that, the primordial germ cells would migrate up from the developing yolk sac and come and lodge in this area where it's going to be their final destination. If it's going to be an ovary, it forms a structure like this. If it's going to form a testis, it forms a structure like this. So if you can just see, now I have not explained anything, but you can see from the character of these two structures. These are schematic diagrams, paintings by the famous uh, Frank Nectar, who used to make a lot of illustrations, anatomical illustrations. You can see that the female gonad is the ovary, which is an outer layer, and the cells are lodging in the center, and the follicular cells which are coming from the surface are encircling these gametes. So there is a gamete and that is surrounded by some follicular cells. While in the male, what happens? You see that these follicular cells are forming cords, and these cords are forming loops. These loops are going to form into tubes, and in these tubes are the gametes are going to lodge. These tubes are called the seminiferous tubules. So that is the way the female gonad and the male gonad is different. So I'll start with the male gonad first. This is the male gonad, which is called the testis. The testis has an outer layer, which is called the tunica albuginea. And inside this is an adult testis. You can see that there are tubules, which are the seminiferous tubules. And in these seminiferous tubules, there will be the growing spermatogonia present. What happens is this, at the mediastinal surface of this is connections which are called the rectitestis, and they would be connecting to a loop which is called the epididymis. We'll go into the detail of this when we go later into the male and female histology, and we go into the reproductive system histology. But now, just for the understanding of male and female gametes, I'm doing this. Now let's see, what do we understand by spermatogenesis. So the early spermatogonia is a primordial germ cell. The primordial germ cell is called a spermatogonium. This spermatogonium would divide into a primary spermatocyte, undergoes first meiosis, forms a secondary spermatocyte, undergoes the second meiosis and forms the spermatids, and the spermatids would finally give rise to the mature sperm. So what is happening is that one spermatogonium, a primordial germ cell which is a spermatogonium, which has 2N, that's the DNA, is able to divide into such a way that we are having 4 spermatids, or we say four mature sperms with a haploid amount of DNA. So they are haploid while the sperm itself is diploid. One by one I'll be talking about this. So during this process, this is a section of the seminiferous tubules. I will just show you this picture. If I take a section of the seminiferous tubules, what do I see? I see there's a basement membrane of the tubule. This is the tubule. We have taken a section from this. There is a basement membrane which is lodging number of primitive cells. These are the spermatogonial cells, and as they are going to the luminal surface of the seminiferous tubules, they are in the stage of division. So it is not as the flow chart that I showed in the first picture, but kya ho raha hai yahan par, that the spermatogonia are divided into a primary spermatocyte, then to a secondary spermatocyte, then to a spermatid, and the spermatids are forming the sperms which will be mature. Between them there are cells which you can see which are supporting it. They are called the nursing cells or the Sertoli cells. This brown color structure that you see out here is actually a Sertoli cell. This is the Sertoli cell nucleus. These are the Sertoli cell which have processes, and these processes are forming the blood-testis barrier. So the spermatogenesis actually takes place when the male child attains puberty. Before puberty, the seminiferous tubules are not canalized. They are in a very primitive stage. The spermatogonia are also as the spermatogonial stage. They are not in any kind of maturation. It's only when there is puberty sets in, there is the influence of the gonadotropin hormones, which would come and influence the Leydig cells which are present in the testis, which are present in between the seminiferous tubules. They would secrete androgen, and that the testosterone which is going to make these cells mature. So the cells mature only at puberty, and primary spermatocyte to secondary spermatocyte is the time when the cells will be becoming haploid. So once the spermatids are formed, this is again just showing you a cell. This is a type B. So there are the dormant stages are the type B spermatogonia. They will be becoming type A, and then there are some resting spermatocytes, which is the initially they divide a lot. So there are a lot of spermatocytes, there are a lot of spermatogonia which would be forming number of spermatogonia, and there would be the resting, obviously the primary spermatocytes, then the secondary spermatocytes, and then the spermatids. The spermatid itself is not mature enough. It needs a process which is called spermiogenesis. Though the chromosome is is haploid. Though the DNA is haploid, the chromosomes are 23, but still what is missing, what is lacking, that the cell is not conducive, or we say it is not primed for the purpose of the gamete, the male gamete and the female gamete is to unite to cause fertilization. So if it is not primed for fertilization, it will not work, it will become an immotile sperm, or it will become a sperm which is of no use at all. So what happens is, first of all, there is the Golgi material in the cell of the spermatid. They accumulate at one end of the nucleus and they form a cap which is called the acrosomal cap. This is the acrosome. So they form the acrosomal area near the head of the nucleus. This is called acrosome formation, and they have some enzymes in it which are acrosin, which are some lytic enzymes. The nucleus would condense. Such a huge nucleus is going to condense, and what happens is the sperm which forms has to have a fish-like or a tadpole-like shape, because it has to have a motility. So it has a shape of a tadpole where there is a head piece, there is a neck piece, there is a middle piece, and there is a tail piece. So the organelles of the cytoplasm would surround the Golgi, comes to the apex, the acrosome. The mitochondria will be forming part of the neck. They form this sheath, middle piece sheath. Most of the cytoplasm would be coming out, would be shedding off, and the sperm, the mature sperm, is an extremely motile cell. It's an extremely motile cell, and one sees that one spermatogonia to form a mature sperm takes almost 74 days in a human. And the motility, and out of this, every day a active male in reproductive age secretes about 300 million sperms every day. Along with sperms, there are a lot of other seminal fluids also which are secreted. So the basic purpose of the sperm is to enter the ova. So this is, as you can see, the head. The nucleus is there. There are some vacuoles in the nucleus. It is surrounded by the plasma membrane, nuclear membrane. So this is the head. When you have the centriole forms the neck, the mitochondria are forming the mid proximal part of the mid piece. Then we have the terminal piece, and then of course the tail. It's like a flagella. The expanded head also forms this kind of a, it becomes a spatula kind of a structure. Spatula type ka ho jata. So it becomes like a spatula. So we have to see what is happening, and now what are the events that are taking place. If you have any difficulty, you can always ask questions in the question section, and I'll try to clear them. But now I think that you patiently listen to me, so that when we have the practicals, wherever you're having any problem, we'll be solving this. Now we have to see now the female gonad. The female gonad is the oogonia. Just mute the phone. So the female gonad is the oogonia, is in the ovary, and here there is one difference is, while the male gametogenesis takes place at puberty, female gametogenesis starts before birth. So before birth, the oogonia, they divide, and you would find that they would be forming a cell with a single layer of follicular cells surrounding them. These cells which we see out here, the oogonias, would be about 600 million, or we say when the baby is born, you can see out here that there is this area that we say the oogonia becomes the primary oocyte with the follicular cells coming and encircling them, covering them. And you find that you can see that the chromatin is now in a lacy network. And at newborn, it's almost, we have 6 lakhs to 8 lakhs of spermatocytes, sorry, oocyte, primary oocytes in the female ovary. But what happens is the meiosis is not completed. It remains like that till puberty sets in. That means oogenesis takes place before birth. So just remember one thing, oogenesis takes place before birth, but oogenesis would complete only when there is puberty. So the meiosis 1 will take place. We know that there is a meiosis 1 and a meiosis 2. Meiosis 1 will take place only when there is puberty sets in and when there is ovulation going to happen. So a primordial follicle which we see during the development has a nucleus and they are surrounded by follicular cells. The follicular cells are the cells from the gonad, and these cells first flatten the follicular cells, later on they become cuboidal. Between the oocyte and the follicular cell, a membrane starts forming, which is called the zona pellucida. So this is the zona pellucida. It's a glycoprotein coat, which also has reactions of secreting sappy proteins. There are fine processes, finger-like processes like microvilli connecting the oocyte to this follicular cells. Now the follicular cells in a growing follicle is cuboidal, and gradually this follicle becomes a primary follicle which has a stratified layer of follicular cells. So these cells are called the granulosa cells, which are going to be stratified in shape. When puberty sets in, there is increase in the granulosa cells. These cells now are called the granulosa cells, and they increase in size. They push the oocyte to one corner. They push the oocyte to one corner, and there is a cavity out here which is called the antral cavity. And what happens next? When this all happens only when puberty sets in, and this is all under the influence of the hormones. So we'll be talking about that, discussing about that in detail. So what happens is there are layers of granulosa cell. The cells which are surrounding the oocyte here would be called the cumulus cells, and they are the follicular cells which are getting aligned outside are called the thecal cells or the theca cells. So the theca cells have got two parts. An inner part, if you look very carefully, you can see the outer part are longitudinal nucleuses are there, elongated nucleus, while the inner part shows round nuclei. This inner part is called the theca interna, the outer part is called the theca externa, and these are called the granulosa cells, and the cells covering the oocyte are called the cumulus cells. So what do we say? So what happens? So oocyte matures by become a primary oocyte, a secondary oocyte, and this secondary oocyte, when it forms, it divides from the primary to the secondary at the time of fertilization, where the first cell body is a large one, while the second one forms a very small polar body. That means there is unequal distribution of the yolk sac. The yolk the cytoplasm is unequally distributed. The big one is in the secondary, and this one is called the polar body. So during ovulation, the first meiotic division happens, and the second meiotic division will get completed only if fertilization takes place. That means whatever is happening in the female reproductive system, starting from birth till fertilization, the complete process takes place only if fertilization takes place. So the first meiotic division is taking place at the time of puberty, and the second meiotic division will take place only when there is fertilization taking place. So one more thing you have to understand is that means what is happening before puberty is that the entire ovary is covered by, if I go to the previous picture, is covered by, we can say in a newborn, by these primordial germ cells which are on the surface, and there are like this, these are the primary follicles which have an oocyte with follicular cells encircling it. So that is these are called the primordial follicles. And when there is ovulation taking place, this big follicle is called a Graafian follicle, and these are called the antral follicles. So when there is ovulation, this part will rupture, and as a result the oocyte is released out. So oogenesis and spermatogenesis, just to see the difference, the primary oocyte, the process is the same, it follows the same steps. So we have oogenesis, when we say it happens once per month. It's only when ovulation sets in. So primary oocyte being dividing into a secondary oocyte takes place once in a month, which we call as the ovulatory cycle. The primary spermatocyte becoming the secondary spermatocyte. And what happens out here? In this picture, they're shown that they are separated, but usually cytokinesis, that is diffusion between the cell membranes, do not place. So all of them are connected with each other. It's only when they become mature that they are separating out. So you have to remember one thing, that there is a primary spermatocyte, a secondary spermatocyte, release of the ovum and the second polar body. And here again there are 4 spermatocytes. Out of these 4, only one would be entering the ovum for fertilization. So the same picture but showing you the chromosomes out here, that 4 chromosomes. Primary also has the pairs, 2 pairs. Secondary, now it is becoming a 1 pair, dividing it into 1. Here again in the male also, in the female also dividing into. So here in the, when it becomes, so it depends upon what is going to fuse, whether if it is going to have the X part of the sperm fusing with the female ova, it is going to form a male baby. If it's going to have the Y fusing with the ova, it's going to have a male baby. So the genetic sex is determined at the time of fertilization. So with this, a little brief about the female reproductive tract, because that will make you understand the process of fertilization. Actually, now you must be finding that I'm going a bit fast, and certain things are repetitive, but little later on we do this again when we will be doing histology. We do this with you when we'll be doing the development of the reproductive tract. Again, we'll be doing these things with you, but here just to make you understand spermatogenesis and oogenesis, I just touched briefly on these parts of oogenesis and spermatogenesis to understand, make you understand the formation of the male and female gamete. So the female reproductive system, if you see, has a uterus. What's the function of the uterus? Uterus is only the place where the ovum and the sperm after fertilization will implant to form the baby. So it's a cavity where the baby is going to grow prenatally. In plain and simple language, this is the fallopian tube, or we say the uterine tube, which has a funnel kind of ending at the distal part, which is called the fimbria. You have the fimbria, the ampulla, the infundibulum, and this narrow part is called the isthmus. So there are four parts of the uterine tube, and just remember, just look at this, how the uterine fimbria are engulfing, or we say that they are holding the ovary. They are holding the ovary as if they are just with their fingers, they are encircling it. And what happens during ovulation? When the Graafian follicle ruptures, the ova comes out. That is the time when these ampulla become very, very motile. So they just suck out that ovum and it's open. They are open. It's patent. So they open up with rhythmical movement. They take the ovum towards the uterine cavity. And as ovulation takes place, if at that time a sperm gets deposited in the female reproductive system, it swims through. And during ovulation, the cervical mucosa also becomes thin so that the sperm smoothly moves through into the reproductive tract and it reaches the uterine tube. When it reaches this part, it might become slightly slow, but thousands, millions and millions of sperms are able to enter the reproductive tract, but only one of them is going to fertilize. This is the placement in the lower part of the abdominal cavity, in the pelvic cavity. And this that you see out here, this structure out here is the placenta with the umbilical cord. And this is a lactate, pregnant. During pregnancy, the mammary gland also gets primed because it would be getting ready to secrete milk for the baby to have during the first few months of life. So you can see it, that was an open view. So now you can see very clearly, we see this part of this. If we just draw an imaginary line between the two uterine tubes, the upper part of the uterus is called the fundus. Okay, this part is called the body and the lower part is called the cervix. They are connected by this membrane that you see out here on both the sides. This is a part of fold of peritoneum, which is called the broad ligament. Now look very clearly, you see this is the uterine tube. As I told you, this is the fimbria. कैसा है ये? देखो, अच्छे से देखो. How is it? It's like those fimbriated ends. So they can move, rhythmical movements. Take out once the ova is released, they will enter. This portion is called the dilated part. This portion is the infundibulum. Then we have this part is the ampulla. And we have this portion out here, which is the narrow part, is called the isthmus of the uterine tube. Look at the ampulla. This is the site where fertilization takes place. Upper part of the fundus. This is where implantation takes place. And this is an ovary. These are, you can see, now you can see the reproductive system. This part which you see is a muscular tube encircling the lower part of the uterus is called the vagina, has an external opening, and the cervix is the narrow portion of the terminal part of the uterus. The upper expanded part is the uterine cavity. A section of this gives you a triangular shape. So this part where the body of the uterus, this upper portion is where implantation takes place in normal conditions. If it takes place anywhere else, it's an abnormal implantation. So now look at this. This is the ovary, a cut end. Now you can see the fimbria, the folds of the uterine tube. There are a number of folds and they also have a ciliated columnar epithelium. Thereby they can sweep the ovum towards the sperm and the sperm would enter from here and swim past this and As it reaches this area, the motility decreases. So it can be viable in a female tract for about 5 to 6 days. The sperm and the ovum, in 2 days, if fertilization takes place after ovulation, it is viable, otherwise they degenerate. So this is an infant ovary, as I had told you. There are a lot of superficial, these are these cuboidal cells, and these are the primordial follicles, just an oocyte with a single layer of follicular cells. It's only when it's growing that this is the oocyte, this is the oocyte, this is the, we say these are the cumulus cells, and these cells, these cumulus cells would be the ones which would be giving cell rise, once rupture takes place, to the corona radiata cells. These are the granulosa cells, the outside cells are the granulosa cells, and outside this are the theca cells. The theca interna is the one which secretes estrogen. And that white membrane that you see out here is the zona pellucida. So you have to understand the three things I would ask you to remember is the granulosa cells, the theca interna, which are secreting estrogen, theca externa are just the follicular cells, and the oocyte with this zona pellucida surrounding it. The cumulus oophorus, they would be the ones which will be giving rise to, they would be the ones giving rise to the corona radiata cells, which we'll be doing. So we've already done that, and you've seen how the reproductive tract is. So we'll just look at this. So we have, just to show you in detail about this wall, the antral fluid, this is the Graafian follicle, mature follicle. It's only when it will rupture, it will become only one. There'll be about, what happens is, under the influence of the pituitary hormones, there'll be about every month, about a few will be recruited to mature. A few of the primordial follicles will be maturing. After that, only one will be forming the Graafian follicle. Rest of them will be degenerating. The one that matures, so this is the wall. You see, this is the antral wall. These are the granular cells, the basement membrane, the theca interna and the theca externa, and the surface epithelium. So once it is released, here in this picture you can see that the oocyte is released. These cells out here, the granulosa cells, they form yellowish color by having lipid in them. So we say that they become large and they have lipid and they form the corpus luteum. If the pregnancy continues, if it fertilizes, it forms corpus luteum of pregnancy. If the pregnancy doesn't happen, there is no fertilization, then it becomes atretic and it becomes a scar tissue, which is called the corpus albicans. And the blood vessels, and you can see lying in the stroma. So this is what it is. So these are the maturing follicles, the mature Graafian follicle, the ruptured one. Immediately as it ruptures, there's a lot of bleeding in it. So it's called corpus hemorrhagicum. Then it forms the corpus luteum. And then if fertilization doesn't take place, it forms the corpus albicans. We'll be doing all this when we do histology also. So all this is under the hormonal control. So what are the hormones? So the hypothalamus influences the pituitary by gonadotrophic releasing hormones that affects the anterior, acts on the anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary secretes two hormones, FSH and LH. So FSH is the one which is primarily involved in growing of the follicles. All the growth of the follicles are by FSH. It's only before ovulation that LH is increased. There is a sudden surge in LH and the Graafian follicle is ruptures with the release of the oocyte. And corpus luteum forms, corpus luteum is the one which is majorly responsible for secretion of estrogen. All this is happening during pubertal life. During puberty, before puberty, what happened? None of these primary oocytes were getting mature. There was no ovulation taking place. So this question must be coming to your mind कि क्या हुआ, क्यों नहीं हुआ ये सब? Because ये जो primordial follicles है, the follicular cells, they secrete a oocyte maturation inhibition factor. So this oocyte maturation inhibition factor जो secrete होता है, that actually inhibits the follicles to mature. That's why there is no maturation taking place. Are you clear about it? So now we have to see that how the hormones are controlling. We have to do now the hormones, that the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the ovary. That is one axis going on. This has its impact on the oocyte, that is release of the oocyte, and also on the uterus. So how does it happen? So when there is the uterine cycle is also going hand in hand with the ovarian cycle. So when ovary sets in, when when puberty sets in, the human, or we say the endometrium, the uterus is lined by endometrium, myometrium, and perimetrium. Endometrium is the part which is responsible for where implantation takes place. So you have to understand that whatever the body is doing or whatever is happening, changes are happening in the body, that's all under the influences of the hormone. It all the purpose is to make the body primed to have an fertilized ovum implanted into the uterus, which needs a nice warm and a cushiony bed, which is the uterine cavity. The endometrium has three parts: a compact part, a spongy part, and a basal part. The compact and the spongy part are the ones which shed out during every cycle. It's only one part, the stratum basal, which we say is there, which remains. So this is the first, it's a 28-day cycle. So when there is shedding, there is hardly any endometrium. Then after shedding, what happens? There is a proliferative phase in which these follicles, it's called the follicular phase also, the follicles are growing. It's all under the control of FSH. At around 14 days mid-cycle, there is ovulation sets in where the follicle is released. The endometrium has started growing in thickness, the blood vessels and glands start growing in thickness, and then they start become secretory. So it's called secretory phase. As the length grows, so also the secretions also grow. So there is a secretory phase of the endometrium. So that is called the luteal phase. So the menstrual cycle of any female during the pubertal life, or we say post-pubertal reproductive age group, which starts from around 11, 12, 13 to almost 50 years of age for any active reproductive cycle of a female. This 28-day cycle, which I'm just giving, is an average, which has the ovulation takes place at 14. The last day of menstruation and between ovulation is always 14 days. So one can calculate. These calculations will make you do in the practical classes, because it's very difficult for me to do these things in an online method, because I need you to interact with me and I need to draw it on the backboard to show you what is happening. यहाँ बहुत मुश्किल है when we have to explain like this. But still try to understand that how the endometrium is growing with the increase in blood vessels and glands. So now let's put the hormones also in place. So there is a continuous growth of FSH. There is some amount of LSH also. LH also, FSH and LH both are growing. Suddenly at mid cycle, there is a surge of LH. You can see the peak. LH suddenly shoots up. As it shoots up, that leads to ovulation. So what are the things happening to a female's body during ovulation? Basal body temperature rises. There is thinning of the cervical mucosa, and we say this is the time, if a couple want to have a child, they should try during this approximately time of ovulation. By understanding, if somebody wants advice, this is the time to try for a baby. So this is 14 days if we say in a 28-day cycle. So 28 minus 14, this is always 14. If it's a 35-day cycle, then this has to be 14, means the first follicular phase out here would be 21 days. ये कैलकुलेशंस हम बाद में कराएंगे. उसमें फिर ये LHFSH के साथ क्या हो रहा है, यहाँ we have estrogenic phase, and ये वाला we call it as progesteronic phase, because here the theca cells are secreting estrogen, here the luteal cells are secreting progesterone. So try to see this. So we have three phases: a menstrual phase, a proliferative phase, a secretory phase again, which will continue with the menstrual phase. A cycle will continue. So this is again the same what I was trying to tell you, how all of them, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, FSH and LH are all acting together to have the ovulation and ovarian cycle and uterine cycle go hand in hand. This is a composite picture to show you all these cycles happening. In infancy, what happens in infancy? Nothing is happening. They are all the primordial follicles, everything. The uterine walls is also even. There's no disturbance. In childhood also it is like this. If you look at infancy, they're slightly thickened because the maternal estrogen works on it. That is the reason. Childhood, again, it's like that. Puberty increase and ovulation takes place. Now we go on to pubertal stage, post-pubertal reproductive stage. This happens if pregnancy sets in, it will be called the corpus luteum for pregnancy. If it doesn't happen, again the whole cycle will repeat again. And post-menopausal, again what happens? The ovaries become atretic, no more ovulation taking place. Uterine also, there is no glands in them, very few glands, so they are all dormant. Nothing is actually happening. So we understood that for ovulation you need a sperm which is coming from the male gonad and a ova for the female gonad, and we have already told you that in the ampulla fertilization takes place. Number of sperms, as we said that there are number of sperms which would come and try to penetrate an ovum, but only one sperm is the one which is able to enter the ovum. The rest will all degenerate, and this is by a process of fertilization. So the one which has to enter goes through a process of the sperm which would enter has to pierce all these areas, the corona radiata, the zona pellucida, and then enter the cytoplasm of the oocyte. You can see there is number of spermatocytes near the corona radiata. But before piercing the sperm needs priming, which is called capacitation. That means the proximal part of the cap is removed. The acrosome is released, which is called an acrosomal reaction. And once the acrosome, so we have the sperm as it enters, you would see it removes its cap. The proximal part of the cap is removed. As the proximal cap is removed, it will be able to bind to the zona pellucida. Once it binds to the zona pellucida, there is a reaction out here which is called the acrosomal reaction. The acrosomal reaction would cause acrosin coming out, and the ligands out here on the zona pellucida will come and bind with this and thereby allow the sperm to enter. So we see sperm binds to zona pellucida. The acrosomal vesicles you can see here. The contents of acrosomes are released by exocytosis. This is an acrosomal reaction and the contents have come out, spilled out. And as they come out, what happens? Hydrolytic enzymes are released. So this helps the sperm to burrow into the zona pellucida, and the nucleus of the male would come close to the nucleus of the female. So the nucleus would enter, the rest of the tail will shed out. So part of the nucleus and the cytoplasm would enter the cytoplasm of the oocyte and they will unite to form the zygote. This is what they're showing. And the zona pellucida, only if one enters, the rest of the sperms are not allowed to enter. This is called a reaction which inhibits polyspermy. Only one of the sperm is allowed to enter. As it enters, it forms a impermeable coating for the rest of the sperms to penetrate. So this is a phenomena where you will see that only one ovum, and there are millions of sperms coming, and before entering the sperm, what does it do? It removes its cap, it secretes some enzymes, and the one which is the first one to do is allowed to enter. It has to be motile, it has to be active, it has to be fast, and it has to react immediately. The rest will not be able to come in. So you can see this blue structure. This is the acrosome. This is the egg nucleus, the egg plasma, and this is the sperm nucleus. And both the nucleus would fuse to form. So at the time of fertilization, what happens? Response of the egg. There is cortical and zonal reaction. Resumption of the division. Resumption of the second meiotic division, division of the female pronuclei, metabolic activation of the egg, metabolic activation of the egg, and the spermatozoa moves close to the female pronuclei. Its nucleus swells, forms male pronuclei, and the tail detaches. Each pronuclei replicate their DNA and thereby form the zygote. So in the next class, I think I will be doing this in more detail about what is the cortical reactions and what happens during fertilization. But just understand one thing, that there is restoration of the diploid number of chromosomes. The genetic sex is determined, and after that there is initiation of cleavage. So this is what it is. The fusion takes place like this, and this is the way fertilization takes place. Next class I'll start with, again I'll just repeat a bit of fertilization and then I will go on to ectopic pregnancies and go on to what do we understand by infertility, contraceptions, and then we start with first week and second week. So thank you. If there are any questions, you can ask me during the practical classes. I hope you have been able to hear me. All these questions that you have written, I'll just go through them, and because we have another class after this, and I will try to elaborate all that you have not been able to understand, and I'll be doing them later. Okay, so good afternoon, because it's been heavy with 2 lectures back to back and the 3rd lecture coming up. So I'll leave now. So good afternoon. See you tomorrow.